Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we discuss the astrological energies from January 1st until January 8th as we begin a new journey around the Gregorian calendar. Happy New Year to you. And I did want to mention that you may feel that your energy resonates with a different New Year beginning point than January 1st. We do have 3 more new cycles of energy starting here over the next few months, and you may feel that one speaks to you more than the other. For example, on January 21st, we have the Human Design Rave New Year. This is when the sun enters gate 41 every year, and so this is a beginning point of a new cycle, especially in the human design energetic calculations. Then we have the Lunar New Year occurring this year on January 29th as we welcome in the cycle of the wood snake. This is the journey into transformation, evolution, and Kundalini rising energies that take us higher with more grounded wisdom to see more that we didn't previously understand or know. And then the next new year we have is, of course, the astrological new year, the Aries equinox, which this year will happen on March 20th when the sun enters 0 point Aries. So multiple beginning points happen for us in the first quarter of each calendar year. And it might be interesting to see in your chart, in your astrology chart, where each of these shows up for you. Because then you could tailor each of these new beginning points to the specific houses in your chart where the sun is. So for example, this Gregorian calendar new year is occurring at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So you could look in your chart at where you have 11 degrees of Capricorn, as this is where a new beginning is happening for you that starts a new cycle. Then you could look at where the Human Design Rave New Year begins, which is around the beginning degrees of Aquarius. This year it'll be at 2 degrees of Aquarius. That would be where a new cycle starts for you in your chart. Then, of course, you could look at the Lunar New Year, which would be occurring around 10 degrees of Aquarius. That's a new cycle. And then where the Aries equinox occurs at 0 degrees of Aries in your chart is where another new cycle would be happening. So if you like new cycles, this might be an exercise for you and just a cool way to identify what is being supported in your chart to begin with each of these initiation journeys. Now, as we start the month of January, we have some highly potent creative energies in the mix. We have a lot that is pressuring us to begin anew in our lives. And I'm going to talk about that a lot in today's show because I feel that is the best and highest way to work with this Mars opposing Pluto energy that we've been discussing. We've talked about how it's going to be working with the 3D, how there's going to be many changes, uncertainty, challenges, and oppositions happening with these forces, especially into early May. But in the higher realms, where we go into our power and we're active in our choices, we can say, well, this is how I'm going to choose to use this energy in my life and in myself. This is where I'm stepping into my power as a conscious creator to work with these energies in the highest and best possible ways to support me and to support where I'm going. I feel that one of the highest manifestations of this energy is that it continues to rebirth new earth frequencies. It continues to push us into new uncharted territory where we step into even more of our abilities as manifestors, light workers, enlightened beings who are here to be in charge of our energy in all ways and to allow that to imprint itself on the matrix, on the 3D. So we go up higher to create what we want in order to be in charge of where the energy flows, to be aware of our choices, to use everything consciously, and then allow that energy to also make its imprint on what is happening in the denser, heavier realms. And this is another way to be of service, to offer your gifts and your energy out into the world in a way that shows and demonstrates there's multiple ways to live with these frequencies. There's not just one way. There's not only the mentality that this is what it is and I have to work within this paradigm. No, this is about busting through paradigms. This is about allowing you to now activate more of who you really are and what you want to create without holding back your truth, your power, your light, your creative forces. And I feel that that's going to be one of the most amazing gifts that we can invest in for ourselves and for the collective as we move into these new cycles. I'll go into that even more here in just a moment. But I do want to note that we now have Chiron direct. And this is important because you could feel that you've been relieved or enlightened about something on your healing path. There could be a sense of understanding what you're moving towards now, the deeper layers you've been working through and healing, and that you're arriving at more understandings of who you really are. And this is one of the blessings of Chiron in Aries, because Chiron takes us into more of our personal truth and our personal identity outside of what we thought we had to be, or outside of anything that the ego or false self constructed as a way to survive. Chiron in Aries is leading us into greater self-awareness, self-confidence, and self-acceptance. Being able to accept this is more of who I really am. This is what I want. This is what matters to me. This is how I want to live my life, because it aligns with who I truly am at the core of my being. So Chiron is direct at 19 degrees of Aries, moving forward slowly, opening up new realizations and understandings around what you've been healing and moving through, especially since last April 2024. Also, as January begins, we still have Jupiter retrograde in Gemini squaring Saturn in Pisces. Jupiter retrograde in Gemini is at 13 degrees. Saturn in Pisces is at 14 degrees. So there is still a part of ourselves that is searching for the answers and desiring to trust ourselves even more. This is a time period to really move into what would it mean if I trusted how I feel? What would it mean if I trusted the strong messages from my intuition? If I allowed my higher self to run the show right now, what would that mean? And how do I then quiet or temper down that Jupiter in Gemini retrograde energy that is searching for possibilities? What about this? What if they say that? What would happen if this occurs? What would I say if this comes up in the conversation? That Jupiter in Gemini can be overactive in trying to figure out all possible scenarios, different perspectives, various choices. It can run rampant. But the Saturn in Pisces is meant to bring that to a standstill and invites you inwards, invites you to listen to the ancient wisdom that you're carrying, the ancient wisdom that knows that you have the answers. You arrived with the answers, but they're not in the mind. They're in your soul. They're in your guidance. They're in the quiet parts of you that are never going to yell to get your attention. These are those quiet whispers of your soul that are guiding you forward onto this new path or this new trajectory, but with the highest possible outcome. So when you understand that Saturn in Pisces is supporting us in closing out karma, closing out what is complete and done, what we've already lived through, what we've already experienced, all that remains is the wisdom and spiritual insights you've gained along the way. Saturn in Pisces is connecting you to those parts of you that are holding that wisdom and asking you to trust that this is all you need going forward. There's a lot you don't need, and that's part of how Pisces works. Pisces removes, clears out, it disconnects us from the physical world. It says you can't take that forward. The only thing you can carry that will actually be useful is what you've accumulated in the form of lessons learned, healed karma, closures, lived experiences, and the higher knowledge that comes from all of it. And so Saturn in Pisces is asking you to let go in order to go higher. But again, that tension persists here as we move into January, And the square between these two planets is slowly separating. It will start to feel more open and freer as we enter into Aquarius season. So the first few weeks here of January, the energy might still feel confusing as you're sorting out what to trust and what to leave behind. But think of the Saturn in Pisces as guiding you through a quiet passageway that eventually spirals up into a whole new vista of peace, compassion, and unconditional love. And that is part of the gift of the Pisces energies. And so speaking of Pisces, on January 2nd, Venus enters Pisces, the same day that Hanukkah ends. And now Venus moves into the sign that she's exalted in, where she is open, loving, intuitive, empathetic, creative, and kind. Venus is actually going to spend a lot of time in Pisces because she's going to have an upcoming retrograde that begins March 1st in Aries at 10 degrees. And that retrograde journey will lead her all the way back to 24 degrees of Pisces. So it's important to note that as Venus enters Pisces on January 2nd, she's going to move into more of her intuitive self, her higher wisdom, her creative spirit, karmic lessons, and healing potentials as it all relates to relationships. Now, Venus is how we attract and pull in what we desire, what we want. Venus is the magnet where we understand that we are worthy, we are lovable, and that those of a similar frequency are naturally drawn to us. This includes all women and feminine energies in your life. Just as Mars is associated with masculine and masculine energies in your life, Venus is about those that we attract, and she is also the principle of receptivity, how we receive love, how we share, how we connect, how we do so in ways that supports what we value and need, how we establish good quality connections and friendships with others in our lives based on how we love and accept ourselves. Venus entering Pisces is actually also about reflection of relationship lessons, relationship karma, what you've learned about all connections with feminine energies, including sisters, friendships, co-workers, colleagues, girlfriends, wives, lovers, partners, you get the idea. And this is going to be a significant cycle here for Venus and Pisces as she closes out phases of her journey that she's already grown and evolved through. But this will be quite an interesting process because Venus in Pisces will be conjunct Neptune in Pisces, the North Node in Pisces, and Saturn in Pisces. So she's going to have some big understandings here around her soul story, around what she has experienced across multiple lifetimes and timelines, how it's shaped her heart, how it's formed her ability to be receptive in trusting others and trusting herself, what energies she has accumulated along the way that she needs to release in Pisces, what patterns she has grown out of, how she's evolved through connections because her self-value and her self-worth have deeply evolved as well. So this is going to be a big energy here, especially in February, March, and April. And I'll be doing a separate episode on this Venus retrograde journey as she reconnects to more of her true essence and has powerful beginning points as well. So we will talk more about that in the weeks ahead, but just a heads up that Venus entering Pisces is a significant shift on January 2nd. On January 3rd, Mercury will clear his shadow territory at 22 degrees of Sagittarius. And so this is when that Mercury retro is finally complete, and there could be a shift in what you want to say, what you've expressed, what you've learned, because that's part of how Mercury in Sagittarius elevates himself. Mercury is the messenger, and so we look at all forms of messages, communications, informations, what we've been learning and whether it serves us or not. And in Sagittarius, we're guided to see a new perspective. There could be turning points here where a mental shift happens and you see something you've been in or dealing with in a whole new light, and you're meant to grow from it. You're meant to expand from it, especially in Sagittarius, and you're able to then see what cycle was unfolding that maybe was unconscious, misinformed, or disconnected you from your truth, just as a few examples. Mercury clearing the shadow opens up new understandings, new space, new mental energy to also be aware of what you didn't know before that could give you some aha moments and a sense of that's what I was learning, that's what it was about, or wow, I didn't have this information, or I didn't say this, I didn't communicate that. There can be some supportive breakthroughs here that also inspire you to move forward and move ahead. So keep that in mind, that if anything has been stuck in your mind, if you felt caged in any way, this could be the week where you feel relief and that cage is swung open and new energy is present going forward. Now, January 3rd is also when we have that Mars retrograde in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius. It occurs at 1 degree 41 minutes of each sign, and it's exact at 2:21 a.m. Eastern. Now, this is where we are being guided to step away from how we've previously created, from where we've been locked into something that connected to our sense of power or strength that we thought fortified us and really supported our personal willpower. That Mars in Leo is a strong fighter, but in retrograde, there's a weakening and a retraction. There's a need to pull back from how you've always done something or how you've always moved forward. Greater consciousness is looked at and required here, especially with the opposition from Pluto. Pluto in Aquarius is connecting you to future potentials that you aren't able to reach yet. And as I describe this, what I'm seeing is there is no bridge between this Mars in Leo and this Pluto in Aquarius. And I'm seeing it as a bridge is needed between your present reality, what you've created so far, who you are, how you're showing up in the world, how you've come to know yourself, how you want to be recognized or seen, how you've developed confidence in who you are. There is a bridge that needs to be built between your current present energy field that goes right into these wild future potentials that Pluto in Aquarius is going to co-create with you when you're ready. It's like there needs to be a new frequency match, a frequency reset, but it can only be done by deconstructing and tearing down anything that has prevented you from evolving and transforming into this next version of self. And so there's a lot of creativity here in the mix because both Leo and Aquarius are very creative, and that Leo energy can ground it in to right now, but that Aquarius energy is the cosmos. It's the neutrinos that haven't arrived yet on the planet. It's the energies in space that we haven't had a personal connection with yet in our auric field. I feel this as not only new incoming streams of frequencies and brilliance, but there's energy here that's going to feel so off the wall and crazy that it can be overwhelming. It can be, well, how do I get there? How do I do that? And that's the inner tension. And it could feel like it's at a standstill because the force of your energy is up against the force of these incoming streams of consciousness, and you're trying to find a frequency match that hasn't fully connected. And I see this frequency match as the bridge that needs to be created. And whether you see that as a figurative bridge or a literal bridge, I'm seeing it as a frequency bridge. And it looks like a bridge. I'm seeing it as very sparkly and very much filled with beautiful energies. And it has a very awesome vibrational field to it. But there needs to be a bridge created here that requires you to deconstruct any of your self-limitations. I'm feeling this as pride, control, too much willpower, the inability to move or evolve because this is how I've always done it. This is what I want. This is what works for me. And the universe is actually bringing in something different that is a better match for where we're going. Now, this relates to how the planet is evolving. The planet is moving into new territory. We know that, right? We've talked about that a million times. And so what you are actually being required to do at a personal level is to shift your own frequency to match where the planet is going so that you can be in alignment without having to go through extremes that could be quite present in the 3D or in the physical world. You don't have to go through that if your consciousness and your willingness is saying, yes, I want to evolve. Yes, I want to do something differently. Yes, I will let down my guard. I will release my pride. I will put down this barrier, this shield, this blockade or fortress, this fortress that I've built. And it served me well, but I'm understanding that fortress is not going to serve me well in these future energies. It's not going to be needed. It's not going to fit. It's not in alignment. And so here the universe is asking you and guiding you to recreate. So this is ultimately a powerful month and turning point to recreate your life in a way that perhaps feels so wackadoodle, so crazy, something you would never consider. It could feel very destabilizing, and honestly, it could feel quite scary at first because these energies are coming in and they're requiring you to be different, to do something new, and you don't have all the pieces yet. But the pieces are arriving, the pieces are coming in. It's just happening in a way that isn't comfortable for the mind. It isn't logical. It isn't rational. And that's where we go to solve problems, right? That's where we go to figure it out or to determine next steps or how am I going to do this? Why am I going to do this? This is not a mental experience. This is not something that you can solve logically or that you're meant to figure out. This is an energetic process that is shifting you into a higher paradigm of experiences. And the more that you are able to say yes to it at a personal sovereignty level, your personal sovereignty is saying, yes, I'm ready for the process here. I understand that alchemy is at play. I'm not going to withhold the precious ingredients that I embody. I'm going to move them to, it's interesting, move them into the middle point of this bridge. So if you visualize your energy moving towards the midpoint, instead of holding back, okay, instead of staying locked in a standoff or hiding in the fortress, or instead of building up greater resistance, if instead you see your energy moving into the midpoint of this bridge, whatever that looks like for you, that's your way of saying to the universe, I'm willing to work in this direction. I'm willing to move my energy. I'm willing to create with you. And you're giving a signal to the universe that you are willing to create with these new potentials that you don't understand, you don't know what the heck is going on or where it's leading, but you've just dropped your resistance. You've dropped the pride. You've dropped the sense of, I've got to manage this. I've got to stay in control, which is going to be a losing position. If you're trying to stay in control of these energies, it will exhaust you and tear you down because your higher consciousness is wanting you to move towards these new potentials. And I realize I'm talking fast because I'm channeling all of this as it's coming through. None of this was planned. I'm trying to grasp every word, and they're showing me the middle of the bridge. Just say, yes, I'm willing to move towards the middle point of this bridge, of this new frequency dynamic. I'm willing to contribute and to show up, and I'm willing to drop whatever I thought I needed in order to get there. And when you do that, not only are you signaling to the universe that you are co-creating, now you are calling in the power of transformation that works with you, that works for you, that supports you. And that is where your alchemy lies. And now you're going to feel that energetic shift, because what I'm seeing next are feet levitating off the earth. I'm feeling feet that aren't on the planet. Instead, they're working with the higher frequencies. They don't have to stay in that previous version of something. Now you're levitating up on onto this bridge. You're levitating into a new experience of energies that is beautifully creative, wildly supported. It feels exhilarating. It feels like that point on a roller coaster ride when you know that you're about to hit that adrenaline peak, but it's not there yet. Maybe it's even what it feels like to get on a wild carpet ride. My son and I just saw a theater production of Aladdin a few weeks ago, and I hadn't seen that movie in so long. And of course, riding on that magic carpet ride is so cool and exhilarating. And that's what this feels like. It feels like, okay, here we go. I'm moving into territory I've never been. I'm not in control of this, but I know the bigger powers of the universe are, and I know that that's also my frequency. The other thing that's taking shape here is that this particular opposition between Mars in Leo retrograde and Pluto in Aquarius is that at this time, they are working powerfully with the nodes of fate, where we have that north node now at 0 degrees of Aries. So that means Pluto is sextiling it and Mars is trining it. And depending on whether you follow the true north node or the mean north node, this energy is strong into January. So you're meant to take off in a certain direction that is best for you, that has your name on it, with that Aries north node at 0 degrees, the Aries point of pure creation. So again, another message here around creativity and remastering your life, recreating something that is truly best for you. So in your chart, you would want to identify a few different areas. So you'd want to look at where this opposition is happening at 1 degrees of Leo and 1 degrees of Aquarius. These two houses that are on different sides of your astrology chart are where this creative push is occurring, is where the universe is saying it's time to do it differently, to recreate at a higher level. The tension, the pressure, the internal divide is all part of it. Don't focus on that so much. Go higher. Be very intentional in where you're directing your energy, where you're directing your emotional self, your mental self, your spiritual self, your physical self. Go higher into this bridge where all things can coalesce and merge and come together. So these two houses in your chart, 1 degrees of Leo, 1 degrees of Aquarius, is where that tension is happening, that you're being guided to develop this new frequency bridge. Then you want to identify where 0 degrees of Aries is happening for you, as this is where the North Node has been directing you into a more pure understanding of who you are now. So the nodes of fate entered Aries back in July 2023. They always move in reverse. So they start at 29 degrees of Aries, and now they're moving back to 0 degrees of Aries before they move into Pisces January 12th. But 0 degrees of Aries, again, is the point of pure potential. What do you want now? What has your name on it? What's in alignment with your soul's next adventure? That Aries energy is cardinal fire. It gets the movement, gets the blood flowing, gets things going. So what are you feeling racing through you that is bringing up more of what you want in this life? That Aries North Node is ruled by Mars. And as we know, Mars is in this equation. Mars is retrograde in Leo, another fire sign. But there's a sense here of not being too impulsive, not just going for it, but approaching in a new way. Understanding that that retrograde is reviewing what you've been through, reviewing what has played out for you or what you've previously created. Mars retrograde is meant to temper that desire and that forward action so you can be more intentional around what you are starting. And then, of course, that Pluto in Aquarius is avant-garde, rebellious, different, unpredictable. And I feel it as your soul is seeking a new evolutionary experience. And the evolutionary experience is coming up by understanding what you've learned, what you've been through, what you've come to understand about who you are now. And this is where the energy is directing you to do something different, to show up in a new way for yourself that could feel quite revolutionary. So here we have, in these first few weeks of January, a revolutionary new approach to what you want to create in your life based on what you've learned, what you've been through, how you've previously acted, performed, created, or done. But this is showing you how to move forward in a higher realm based on a new truth and a new authentic experience. I mean, that's some powerful stuff. And that's one of the best ways to use this energy of the Mars-Pluto opposition. Create a new chapter for yourself. Create new experiences for what you want and what has your name on it. Allow this to push you forward. And that doesn't mean it's comfortable, but that's where the growth happens, right? It's outside that comfort zone that the growth occurs. So this is happening for all of us on the planet. But the more conscious you are of it, the more aware you are of it, the more you are in charge of your experience, the more that you're taking the reins on signing up and moving towards what you're evolving into. So allow this to be a powerful, creative time for you. And that's going to look different for all of us, but this is where you are working with universal forces, working with these strong oppositional energies in a way that benefit you and push you into a new chapter that your soul is waiting for. And that's part of the Pluto in Aquarius frequency. Your soul has got this covered. Your soul is on it. Your soul is like, yes, this is what we want. This is what you're ready for. Let's do it. And so here is this push to get out of, again, that lower Mars in Leo, which is the ego, the pride, the resistance to growth, the desire to maintain a certain appearance or level of control or something that you want that keeps you stuck. And yet, again, that's not going to work. That's not going to be where the energy will ultimately play out in your favor. So simply start by visualizing your energy moving towards the midpoint of that frequency bridge. That's it. That's all you have to do if this resonates with you, is you visualize the movement towards the change, towards the shift, and then that is going to change what you feel and sense, because that's where the universe, again, gets your approval or your buy-in that you're ready for what is happening next. You're ready for the magic carpet ride of change and evolution that you're being directed towards. So amongst all of this energy, we have other transits occurring right after this opposition is exact. On January 4th, the Sun in Capricorn sextiles Saturn in Pisces at 14 degrees. And this is a beneficial sextile since the Sun in Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And when they meet up through the sextile, there is more grace, ease, and peace. There could be a sense of relief as well. This could be a nice day to take things slower, to be patient, to give yourself a break. It is on a Saturday, so maybe it's a weekend of cleaning up, refreshing your environment, straightening up, just moving at a slower pace and giving yourself a break, especially from the busyness of the holiday season. Then on January 6th, that Mercury in Sagittarius, which has just cleared its retrograde shadow, will square Neptune in Pisces at 27 degrees. That occurs on Monday the 6th. And there could be confusion around what to focus on, what to choose, perhaps even a sense of, okay, I'm back to work. All these emails, all these things I need to now circle back on or respond to. There can be overwhelm here on January 6th. And it could just take a beat to get caught up on what's important and what you need to focus on. The mental energy will actually become clearer when Mercury enters Capricorn on January 8th. This is when you could be more decisive, more aware of what matters. Mercury in Capricorn will take the reins and show you this is what needs to get done. This is what's important. This is where I need to put my effort. So if it feels like things are a bit unsettled or all over the place, January 8th will support making correct decisions and being more productive as we return back into priorities, commitments, and what we need to complete as January gets underway. Now, on January 6th, retrograde Mars is going to re-enter Cancer. And this is a significant turning point of the energies. So as we discussed, Mars just had that big standoff with Pluto in Aquarius, then returns to Cancer at 29 degrees, which is where Mars had the previous opposition with Pluto. Mars previously opposed Pluto at 29 degrees of Cancer back in early November. Anyone remember what was going on in early November? Extreme emotions, big rage, big outbursts. People turned into keyboard warriors, are going to tell you off or tell you what to believe and tell you why you're wrong or tell you this, tell you that. There was a lot going on in the collective that was activating the emotional responses and reactions. As Mars in Cancer at 29 degrees opposed Pluto in Capricorn at 29 degrees, Mars moves back to that point on January 6th, which could trigger anew more of that energy and that emotional intensity. But Mars is no longer in an exact opposition to Pluto. And so this could be a time for deeper processing, reflection, and understanding around what your emotional world has been holding and containing since early November. Mars re-enters Cancer and will keep moving in retrograde until February 23rd, where Mars travels back to 17 degrees of Cancer and stations direct. Mars will stay in Cancer for 3.5 months now. And this is a big deal. I'm going to be doing a separate podcast episode for you on this. As Mars returns to his emotional self, repressed memories, unprocessed emotions, Mars returns to the Great Mother, which signifies both his internal mother and feminine energies, as well as external mothers and maternal figures. And now Mars also connects with what he really feels that holds deep wisdom for him. So again, I'll do a separate podcast discussing this energy because it's a big deal since it lasts for nearly 4 months and will require all of us to be more self-aware around what we're feeling, how we express it, how we respond, to stay aware of heightened sensitivity or extreme defensiveness, to understand what's underneath that is triggering us to not feel safe, to not trust what we're feeling, as well as how to act with our feelings in a more healthy expression. So there's a lot here. And this Mars retrograde in Cancer is also going to be making connections to Neptune in Pisces, Uranus in Taurus, Saturn in Pisces, Venus in Pisces, and the Sun in Pisces. So there's a lot more to the story here that actually relates to the Pisces archetypal themes. And we will explore that more in that separate podcast that I'll do for you on Monday, January 6th. Do keep in mind that after Mars enters Cancer, there can be a desire to retract. The energy is going to shut down or turn off in some way, and there could be a sense of stomping away in anger. I'm getting the visual of slamming the bedroom door. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to do this. This doesn't make me happy. I don't like this. There can be more coming up that needs to be processed and moved through. So if you experience that in yourself or in others, simply step back. Let people have their emotional experiences right now. Allow people to do what they need to do on their own. If they need to detach, if they need to leave the room or leave the conversation, if they're really triggered, this is not the time to try to find an immediate solution because you could be met with more defensiveness or angry words. It's better to let people be when the emotions are heightened, especially over this next week. And keep in mind that could be for yourself or others. Mars in Cancer relates to people you live with, since Cancer is about home, family, and your personal space. So also be more conscious of what you're bringing up to solve, what you want to discuss or change, because the heightened emotional energy in the collective right now can make something minor or inconsequential a very big deal, making a mountain out of a molehill, turning a drop of water into an ocean. Be sure to trust your energetic read on a situation and even be willing to step back and process what's coming up for you in a private way. In fact, this will even be more important as the Sun in Capricorn squares Chiron in Aries at 19 degrees on January 8th. Sun in Capricorn is checking in on what is being taken care of. How's the progress? How's this going? Chiron in Aries is don't bother me. You're not my boss. I don't report to you. I'm going to do it my own way. So there's a touchy energy this week here, starting January 6th through January 8th. You might find that some people are cranky, ungrounded, unnerved. There's a lot that's unsettled that they're worried about or stressed about. Understand that this is certainly part of the collective experience right now, but one of the gifts of astrology is that we can work with the energies more intentionally. So if you can hold back on checking in on some things, if you can let people have their space and not push them, that might work out better for you and for them. I know that's not always realistic, but do keep in mind that there can be more annoyance, agitation, anger, and resentment the early part of the week. Again, February 6th, 7th, and 8th. Just a heads up to hopefully spare yourself anything that's unnecessary. So here we go. The first week of January is certainly starting off with a bang. And if you can consciously work with these energies to see how they are supporting you in growth, new creative expressions, a revolution of some kind that you're ready for, if you can say yes at some level of your being and work towards that future that your soul is holding for you, it's going to pay off. It's going to make the road ahead easier and lighter. And you're also going to feel more empowered and in control of how these Mars-Pluto oppositional energies will play out for you. This is also how we are co-creating the new Earth experience. This is how we are manifesting more of what we want in the higher realms by understanding that everything can work with us as long as we are mastering what we're choosing, that we're aware of our intentions, and that we see ourselves as powerful creators. You are powerfully creating your reality here more than ever, more than any other lifetime on this planet. So own it and be in that state of wonder and excitement for what you can create for yourself now that's not been available until this time. We are now in these 2025 frequencies that have big potentials, big resets, exciting new chapters, and that does mean endings are occurring as well. I did a separate podcast episode for you about this being a time of Pisces masterclass energies. We are in some significant closures here that are required and needed as part of the cosmic ebb and flow, the cycle of life, the process of energy. And when you are in higher alignment with who you are and what you want, it's going to bring in beautiful developments, rewards, and uplifting experiences. Be sure and check out my 2025 Soul Growth Astrology program that gives you the lay of the land. It helps you understand how these transits are happening for you this year. You're going to get a heads up on what is coming in March, which will be here soon enough, what is occurring for you with the Venus retrograde, and eclipses that start in March. So be sure and check out that information so that you can be aligning with those changes now. March is also when Neptune moves into Aries. Then we'll have Saturn move into Aries in May. Jupiter enters Cancer in June. Uranus moves into Gemini in July. I mean, we've got a lot going on here and it's going to speed up. So please check out that material so that you can apply it to your chart. That's why I do this program, to help you be a better astrologer for yourself, to help you be in charge of your experiences, to not be caught off guard, and to see the shifts that are happening for you. I'll put the link below the podcast here, and you can also find more of my teachings at mollymccord.online. Wishing you a beautiful start to January. And as always, I'm looking forward to sharing these astrological energies with you as we move further into the year. Have a beautiful week ahead, and I look forward to connecting with you every Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode. Take good care, and I'll see you back here soon.